Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira vanachari Yamunatira vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Acharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Acharya Ashtotara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So I need a book. I'm sorry if you were expecting Vajrayana Swami today. Unfortunately, you have to hear from me. But I think he's on a GBC call, so that's my understanding. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so we are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 13, Text number 5. Adrishya, Jhilli, Svana, Karna, Shula, Uluka, Vagbhir, Vyatitantaratma, Apunya, Vrikshan, Shrayate, Kshudhardhito, Marichi, Toyani, Abhidhavati, Kvachit, Drishyajilli Svanakarna Shula, Uluka Vagbhir Vyatitana Antaratma, Apunya Vrikshan Sharyate Kshudhardito, Marichito Yanyabhidhavati Kvachit, Adrishya Jhilli Svanakarna Shula, Uluka Vagbhir Vyatitantaratma, Apunya Vrikshan Shrayate Kshudhardito, words must be Kshudhardito, Marichito Yanyabhidhavati Kvachit, Adrishya Jhilli Svanakarna Shula, Uluka Vagbhir Vyatitantaratma, Apunya Vrikshan Shrayate Kshudhardito, Marichito Yanyabhidhavati Kvachit. Swanakarnashula Anybody else? In Zoom? Anybody want like to chant?
Adrasya jilli swanakarna shula Uluka vadbhi vyathitantaratma Apunya vrukshan srayate kshudhardito Marichito yanyabhibdavati kvachit.
Adrishya, invisible. Jhilli, of crickets or a kind of bee. Svana, by the sounds. Karnashula, whose ears are disturbed. Uluka, of the owls. Vagbhi, by sound vibrations. Vyathita, very disturbed. Anta Atma, whose mind and heart. Apunya Vrikshan, impious trees that have no fruits or flowers. Shrayate, he takes shelter of. Kshuddha, from hunger. Ardita, suffering. Marichitayani, the waters of a mirage in the desert. Abhidhavati, he runs after. Kvachit, sometimes. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Wandering in the forest of the material world, the conditioned soul sometimes hears an invisible cricket making harsh sounds, and his ears become very much aggrieved. Sometimes his heart is pained by the sounds of owls, which are just like the harsh words of his enemies. Sometimes he takes shelter of a tree that has no fruits or flowers. He approaches such a tree due to his strong appetite, and thus he suffers. He would like to acquire water, but he is simply illusioned by a mirage, and he runs after it. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the Bhagavat philosophy is meant for people who are completely free from envy, paramo nirmatsaranam. The material world is full of envious people. Even within one's inner circle, there is much backbiting. And this is compared to the sound vibration of a cricket in the forest. One cannot see the cricket, but one hears its sounds and thus becomes aggrieved. When one takes to Krishna consciousness, one always hears unpalatable words from relatives. This is the nature of the world. One cannot avoid mental distress due to the backbiting of envious people. Being very much aggrieved, sometimes one goes to a sinful person for help, but he has no means to help because he has no intelligence. Thus the living entity is disappointed. This is like running after a mirage in the desert in an effort to find water. Such activities do not produce any tangible results. Due to being directed by the illusory energy, a conditioned soul suffers in so many ways. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangsha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, in this verse we're seeing a description of, well, coming in a larger description, part of a description of the forest of material enjoyment and the nature of this world and enjoyment within this world. So if somebody wants to know the nature of something, you have to approach somebody who knows the nature of that thing. Just like if you have a car. If you have a car, there may be something wrong with the car, but a mechanic, he knows. A mechanic knows all of the different problems with a car. If the car stops running, or if it's making a weird sound, he'll tighten some screw. He can diagnose the problem and he can fix it. So similarly, devotees, we have faith in Shastra, because Shastra tells us about the nature of this world and also the nature of the spiritual world, and it's paramo nirmatsaranam, meaning it's the highest knowledge for which is meant for those who are non-envious, whose intelligence is pure. And so we're seeing in this section of the Bhagavatam how this material world has so many problems. And it's a fact that this material world does have so many problems. But the basic problem of this material world is thirst. Actually, as we're reading in this verse, in the last sentence, he would like to acquire water, but he is simply illusioned by a mirage, and he runs after it. So the basic problem in this world is thirst, is that we're looking for some kind of satisfaction, but we're not finding it. And so therefore, the living entities within this material world, they're wandering again and again, life after life in this material world, trying to find thirst. It's said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Brahmanda Brahmite, that we're just wandering within this Brahmanda, within this universe, and unlimited universes. And this material world is often described as an ocean, Bhavasagara, the ocean of material nature. And so, tying it into this analogy, factually there is water in this material universe. We're very thirsty, and factually there is water within this universe, within the material world. And so we see that, and we become very attracted to it, and we run after it. But what's the nature of water in this material world? Just like the ocean, it's Bhavasagara. Just like the ocean, there are many oceans within the material universe, but the ocean that we have experience of is the saltwater ocean. So if we try to drink the water from the saltwater ocean, we'll only become more thirsty. And it's stated in Bhagavad Gita, Kama rupena konteya dushparena analena cha, that lust for not just sexual lust, but lust for material enjoyment, it burns like fire and it's never satisfied. So similarly, just like drinking salt water, if you try to drink salt water to quench your thirst, you'll only become more thirsty. And actually you'll die. But so, and we see that in this material world, that lust, it burns like fire and it's never satisfied. Everywhere you look within this material world, whether it's in America, whether it's in China, whether it's on the higher planets or wherever it is, or in Russia. Everywhere you look, everybody's saying, enjoy your senses. Just let loose, just go at it, just, give it your all. And they're saying this is the way to find happiness. If they're not saying it outright, at least they're implying it. So many advertisements, you need this, you need that to be happy. Is this happening? Do you have this problem? Well, this will solve it. So factually, everybody in this material world, they're pushing material sense enjoyment. They're just saying stuff things into your senses and then you'll become happy. But actually, if you look around, if you just give it a good, look, if you'd really try to analyze what's actually going on, who's happy? Who's really happy as a result of doing that? Nobody. Nobody's happy. Anyway, say what you want about statistics, but recently there was a study, and I think it's significant that 14% of Americans, only 14% of Americans said that they were happy. This is a study done within the last 3 years. So 14%, that's 300 million Americans. What's 14% of 300 million? It's something very, wow, that's really fast, okay. I'll take your word for it. So yeah, 14% of 300 million people in one country say that they're actually happy. And this is supposed to be like sense gratification loca in relation to the rest of this world. So actually nobody's happy. And if you go out on book distribution actually, or just go outside, in general, you look at people's faces, actually people are miserable. You can see it on their faces. They're just moded out, They're just completely miserable. Why? Because they're mistaking spiritual thirst for material thirst. What they actually have is spiritual thirst. They're thirsty for some kind of spiritual experience, some kind of spiritual rasa. But they're mistaking it for material thirst for material enjoyment. They're trying to put a spiritually shaped, or they're trying to put a materially shaped peg in a spiritually shaped hole, if that makes sense. And so, but the devotees, they know. They don't try to drink the salt water of Bhavasagar, of this ocean of material enjoyment. Instead, they relish the pure Ganges emanating from the lotus toes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, if the conditioned souls within this material world would simply turn to Krishna, all of their dissatisfaction would turn into satisfaction and more. And it's described in the Upanishads, and Prabhupada gives this example a lot, that there's two birds in a tree. And one bird is enjoying the fruit, flying from tree to tree, enjoying different fruits. Sometimes he's tasting bitter fruits, sometimes he's tasting nice fruits. And the other bird is it's simply watching. And Prabhupada says he's waiting, simply thinking, when will this rascal turn to me? And so this is our situation in the material world, the situation of the conditioned soul. That people, they just forget God. They forget God, and they're trying to enjoy this world. And in the teachings of Rishabdev that we just read not so long ago, it said, Nunam pramatta kurate vikarma yad indriya priti, Yad indriya pritiya apranoti tat sadhum. No, I think that's Prahlad Maharaj. It's nasadu manye yata atmano yam asanapi klesha asadeha, right? So people, they forget completely about God. They forget completely about spiritual life. And so thus they become engaged in so many just disgusting activities, actually, for material sense gratification. They become absorbed like madmen in just disgusting activity, actually. So many disgusting things are going on in the name of happiness, in the name of pleasure, in the name of sense gratification in this world. Because people, they don't think that anybody's watching. They think that God's not watching. Or some people, even if they believe in God, they think He can't watch. Like I had a friend, it's kind of a funny example, but I had a friend in elementary school, and whenever he would do something bad, whenever he would, I don't know, maybe he was looking at, I don't know, he would hide under a table, because he was thinking that God can't see me under here because God's looking from above. So he was thinking God can't see, when he's under the table. So whenever he would misbehave, he'd go under a table. And so, but yeah, practically people in this world, they forget that God's watching. They think that nobody's watching. But actually he is. He's within all of our hearts. And he is watching. And he's seeing all of our activities. And we're reaping the reward or punishment accordingly. And such people who are absorbed in material sense gratification, forgetting that God is watching, the Bhagavatam describes that Janeshva Bhigyesha Sa Eva Gokara, that such people are actually no better than cows or asses. Such people are no better than animals. Because what are animals doing? Animals are eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And that's all they're doing. They're completely absorbed in the happenings of this material world. They're completely absorbed in the condition of their body. They're completely absorbed in making sure that their body is comfortable, their body is well fed, and that their body is maintained. And people with no idea of spiritual life, this is all they're doing. It may be polished. It may be, they may live in skyscrapers instead of, a den in the ground, or they may they may build, huge concrete dams instead of little dams made out of sticks. But factually, the activity is the same. The activity is the same, that they're simply maintaining this body and providing it sense gratification. But the human form of life, it's not meant for just living like any animal. Because the fact is that human life is much different than animal life. The human consciousness is much different than animal consciousness. Animals, they have no ability to understand anything beyond sense gratification, beyond maintaining their body. But human beings actually do. We actually do have the ability to understand, have some philosophical, some spiritual understanding. We have intelligence. It's like we have God-given intelligence. And so because we have God-given intelligence, we should use that intelligence for God, for realizing God. This is the proper use of one's intelligence. And the devotees, knowing this, they leave behind all these disgusting activities of sense gratification, whatever it may be, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling, meat eating. They leave all of these things behind, happily. And people in this world, they may think it's madness. And more often than not, especially in America, they do. They do think it's madness. They think we're crazy. Maybe in one sense we are, in relation to this material world. We are crazy in relation to this material world. Because this material world is accepting something which is not normal as normal. So yes, devotees in relation to this material world, we are abnormal. But we're happy with it. We're fine with it. We don't want to be normal. And people, they may oppose us. They may say so many things, just like Prabhupada's mentioning in this purport, that there's so much backbiting, so much gossip. People, envious people, they say so many things. The devotees, they face so much opposition from these envious people, simply because they're envious. They're envious of Krishna, they're envious of other people, they're envious even of themselves. They don't know it. And in this material world, it's because they have to be envious. People absorbed in sense gratification, they absolutely 100% have to be envious. Because they want to be the big enjoyer. They want to enjoy as much as possible. And if they're not envious of other people, then somebody will enjoy more than them and usurp their position as the big enjoyer in this material world. And in the past, there's been so much opposition to the Krishna consciousness movement. Like devotees used to get deprogrammed. I think even here there was one devotee who was deprogrammed, or who was attempted to be deprogrammed. They picked up, what was it? Yeah, he got it. Yeah, Arya Siddhanta. So, what was the story? They picked him up from.
They threw him in a car. Oh, right.
Oh, both? Wow.
Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, who lives in Vrindavan now. His parents put him, and then somehow he escaped from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got him, and apparently somehow or other they took him. I think it was like to New York or something.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but so he was being watched by these guys, because they didn't want him to get away. So in other words, the deprogrammers would try to brainwash you that, hey, Krishna consciousness is bad. Why don't you just be like everybody else, be normal, So they were trying to deprogram, and apparently they had a museum one time. And then what happened is, whatever, one of the guy got a phone call, I'd go to the phone, and one of the guy had to go to the bathroom or something, and he's like, okay, great. And then he just ran out the door, right? And he ran, and he called Bajranarayan Swami, and then Maharaj bought him a ticket back to San Diego, and he got away, escaped. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember also part of that story is they like showed him pornography and like tried to get him to eat meat or something like that. So those people are just completely insane. They can't stand to see somebody, give up sense gratification. They think it's crazy because they're completely absorbed in it themselves. They think we're brainwashed. That's a word that comes up a lot, brainwashed. I guess not so much anymore, but back in the day it came up a lot. There was this whole thing that the Hare Krishnas are brainwashing people. And when Prabhupada heard this, that devotees were there was one court case, but Prabhupada heard that devotees were being sued for charges of brainwashing. He actually liked it very much. He thought it was good publicity. He appreciated that we were getting attention. And he said, yes, that's true, we are brainwashing. Your brain is full of stool, so it has to be washed. And then he also said, actually, we are brain giving, because you people have no brain. And so this is the business of devotees, to go out and give people a brain, because people in this world, they actually have no brain, factually speaking, because they don't understand what the real purpose of life is. They're absorbed in like a mirage, like in this verse it says, they're absorbed in a mirage. And in this way, you read this description, and it's very pitiful. It's very pathetic. It's almost like a child without its mother or father. It's like, alone and confused and distressed and doesn't know what's going on. This verse, it describes a very pathetic condition of the conditioned soul. And even actually the people, non-devotees, they know that they need help. They know that they need help, something beyond the material world, something beyond just material happiness. And so therefore now spirituality has become very popular. So many yoga studios, so many, this meditation thing, that meditation thing. But because they have no brain, they're being cheated. They have no spiritual intelligence. They're being cheated by all such, bogus gurus, bogus yogis, bogus incarnations of God, so-called. But the devotees, they go out and they make these totally, completely unfortunate people, they make them extremely fortunate, completely fortunate, actually. Because when one is fortunate, they receive the seed of devotional service. Brahmanda Brahmite Kuna Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. That they receive the seed of devotional service from the spiritual master in Krishna by their mercy. And so the devotees, acting as agents of Krishna and acting as agents of the Guru Parampara, they go out and they give these completely unfortunate people the greatest fortune of the seed of devotional service. And it may not sprout right away. We see that there's so many books being distributed, but how many people are actually becoming devotees? Actively practicing devotees. But the seed, it may not sprout immediately, but the idea is that we're starting them on the path back to Godhead. We can take solace in knowing that every time we distribute a book, this person will go back to Godhead as a result of this distributing of this book. That they're starting on their path of devotional service. And it just goes to show how powerful Prabhupada's books are. Prabhupada's books, they're directly manifesting the highest love of Godhead. They're directly manifesting Krishna Prema, which is the goal of all of our lives, which is actually all of our lives. And so when people get these books, even if they just hold it in their hands, their lives become perfect because they're holding Krishna. They're literally holding Krishna within their hands. And so this incarnation of Krishna, this literary incarnation of the Srimad Bhagavatam of Krishna is most important in this Kali Yuga. Because it can give the highest benefit to everybody so easily. If they simply just open it and read it, and even if they don't, if they just hold it in their hand, they get the supreme benefit just from this Srimad Bhagavatam. And in the Bhagavad Mahatmya, it states that one who gives Srimad Bhagavatam on a full moon day, they get liberation. And so just think of the benefit that we're getting by distributing books every single day. No matter what phase of the moon it is, we're out there distributing books. So just imagine the benefit that we're getting. And it's not even about liberation. This idea of liberation, actually, it's kaivalyam narakayate tridashapura akasha pushpayate. For the devotees, this idea of liberation, they're not so concerned about it. Actually, impersonal liberation, this idea of impersonal, it's hellish, actually, for the devotee. Because what we're after is to please Krishna and to please Srila Prabhupada and to please our spiritual master. And so the devotees, they don't care if they go back to Godhead. They don't care if they have to stay within this material world life after life. As long as they can please Krishna and please Srila Prabhupada and please the spiritual master by distributing his books, Prabhupada's books, and the books of the previous Acharyas, then they don't care. They're not concerned whether they have to take birth in this material world again and again and again. There's this book, All Glories to the Sankirtan Devotees by Harikesh Prabhu. And in this, there's a section where he says, it's better to be born as a bug in the book bag of a Sankirtan devotee than to be born as Lord Brahma without the Sankirtan spirit. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's really inspiring for me. So this is our goal, to please Krishna and to please Srila Prabhupada. And it's significant because we're not actually trying to please. In one sense, we're trying to save the conditioned souls, but we're not just trying to please them. We're not just trying to go out and make a good impression for the sake of just making a good impression. We have to preach Krishna consciousness. We have to preach Krishna consciousness, not, mundane welfare consciousness or giving to the homeless consciousness or, whatever consciousness. We have to preach Krishna consciousness. And this message of Krishna consciousness, the message of the previous Acharyas, it's tough to market. It's not easy for people to accept. And it would be very easy if we just removed all the controversial statements. If we said, oh, no, you don't have to give up illicit sex. You don't have to give up meat eating or intoxication. It'd be very easy. And Prabhupada even commented, it'd be very easy. I would have so many followers if I didn't have all of these rules. Even if you just remove the illicit sex rule, actually, we would have so many more followers. But the idea is that we're not trying to please the non-devotees. We're not trying to compromise with them. We're trying to please the previous Acharyas. And our power for preaching comes from them. And we get that power by preaching what they preached. So if we're not preaching what the previous Acharyas preached, we're not going to get power for preaching. Our preaching will have no effect. And so we have to stay connected. We're not after popularity. Prabhupada, this is a good quote from Prabhupada. It rhymes. Prabhupada says, we're not after the mass, we're after the class. He said we want a select few of individuals who are seriously dedicated to Krishna consciousness, and we don't just want cheap followers. He says, what is the use of if a pack of asses says you are good? And even if the whole world chants Hare Krishna, even if world governments start allocating resources for ISKCON and they start building so many, fine, great. But actually it's just a big failure if we don't do it in accordance with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. Because there are so many Appa Sampradayas, if you go to, wherever, in Mayapur and Vrindavan, all over. There's so many Appa Sampradayas and they're chanting Hare Krishna. It's good, they're chanting Hare Krishna, but it's just like, it's like if you're like drinking corn oil while running on a treadmill, what's the effect? You're just going to get fat still. So yes, they're chanting Hare Krishna, yes, they're getting benefit, but still they're committing so much sinful activity, not in accordance with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So we have to stay connected. And so our success, the real success, is pleasing Prabhupada and pleasing Krishna. And Prabhupada even said that if people are opposed to us, that is actually our success. Because that means that we're making an impact, that it's a serious thing. Because factually speaking, opposition between devotees and opposition between demons, it's eternal. This is always going on. Prahlad Maharaj, for example, Prahlad Maharaj was the greatest devotee. Hiranyakashipu was one of the greatest demons. And simply by Prahlad Maharaj's preaching to his father pure Krishna consciousness, he tried to kill him in so many different ways. And also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, more recently, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chandkazi tried to stop the Sankirtan movement. But still, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it went on. And in relation to this, Prabhupada says, in relation to this incident with Chankazi, Prabhupada says, we should remember that such incidents took place in the past, 500 years ago, and the fact that they are still going on indicates that our Sankirtan movement is really authorized. For if the Sankirtan movement were an insignificant material affair, demons would not object to it. Unless there is opposition, it is not genuine. It is not genuine or it is not serious. Opposition must be there. So if the demons are opposing us, that's a great thing. It means we're preaching real Krishna consciousness, because actually Krishna consciousness is completely opposed to everything that the demons hold dear to them. Illicit sex, intoxication, just gross sense gratification in general. And so they must be opposed to us. And even devotees who don't preach, even they are opposed by demons. Even they face so much opposition. Like I remember Balaram Prabhu was telling me a story. He was at the post office with Jamal, and he was in line, and some lady said, what was it? She was like, okay guys, it's time to take off the robes and, get a job. She said something like that. And I've also experienced, personally speaking, you just go outside wearing dhoti kurta and people, they stare at you, they give you weird looks, and they'll say things, and people say all the time, nice dress, kind of make fun of you. But the devotees, they're not shaken. They don't feel like it's a big deal, because they understand that it's just like if you're walking down the street. I heard Maharaj give this example, Bhajanarayan Maharaj, in a class recently. Like if you're walking down the street, like there's a house near here. It has has a dog in the front lawn, always in the front lawn. And you walk by, and the dog just starts barking and snarling, and he's showing his teeth, and he's jumping. He just wants to get at you. But if you're walking by that dog, and this dog starts doing this, do you start to think, oh, well, that's sad. You start to feel sad, and you think, oh, well, he doesn't like me, No, you don't think that. You think it's a dog, Who cares about the opinion of a dog? So similarly, the devotees of the Lord, they understand that the people in this material world, everything that they base their life on can be so easily defeated just by, a page of the Srimad Bhagavatam. A paragraph of the Srimad Bhagavatam, a sentence of the Srimad Bhagavatam, one word of the Srimad Bhagavatam can completely defeat everything that they base their entire life on. And so the devotees of the Lord, they disregard the backbiting, the envious words of the non-devotees, just like the barking of dogs. And they stay fixed. They go on, they stay fixed in truth, in preaching the Krishna consciousness movement as it is, without deviation, without compromise. Knowing that all success will come from this. So that's all I have prepared. Maybe we can have comments, questions, chastisements. Dimitri Prabhu.
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. So what would be your best page for defeating their arguments, if you could refer?
Best page? There's a lot of pages in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Maybe, Vijay Prabhu, do you have an idea? The best page for defeating the materialists. Huh? Yeah, that's true. The first page is good. Janmadyasya tonyavari taratashartesha bhigyasvara tene brahma hridaya adikavaye muhyanti yat surya tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamra svena sadani rastakuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Yeah, that's a good one. Any page. Jeff
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for class. Amogha Lila Prabhu. I know a lot of these spiritual people, the yoga people.
Yeah.
Haribol. I know a lot of spiritual people, yoga people are, kind of, woo.
Yeah.
What do you say when they say to you, I don't believe in religion, but I believe in spirituality?
Well, what they're saying is that they don't. The thing is, religion is kind of like a bad word nowadays. You're like not allowed to say it. But the idea, their idea of religion, practically speaking, is Abrahamic religion. They don't like it's such a great disservice that I'd say Christian because they're like most of the people who are like preaching in America and things like that. Actually, they've done such a disservice for anybody trying to propagate spiritual knowledge in the West, because they've just like fried everybody out with like the way that they preach. It's very like fire and brimstone, and that's there. That's not wrong, but it's just they're just actually really bad preachers. They just like don't really have effective preaching strategies, to be honest with you. And so really they've just fried everybody out. And so people on that basis, they don't like religion. So what I say, I mean, what you can say is the second verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma Projita Kaita Botra, that this Srimad Bhagavatam, it completely kicks out any kind of cheating or mundane religion. So basically it's kind of like a semantical issue, to be honest with you. It's more of an issue of like words. And so especially if I'm on book distribution, if somebody says, oh, you know, like, what religion is this, or I'm not religious, I'll just say, oh, well, this isn't religion. It's beyond all designations of religion. It's the eternal occupation of, it's universal spiritual principles for everybody, the eternal occupation of the spirit soul. It's our nature within. And it's true. So that's one thing that I say. I guess Vijay maybe has something.
I tell them, religion tells you what to do, this tells you who you are, and you decide for yourself what you want to do.
Wow. That's a better one. Yeah. Yeah, religion tells you what to do, this tells you who you are, and you decide for yourself what you want to do. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so do that. You can say that one. Go over to Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Amogha. So yesterday I was distributing books in Ohio, and it was a mother and a son. They were from India. And the son, he wanted to get a Bhagavad Gita, but the mom said, no, we have that, you can't keep this. And the son, he really wanted it. And then so the mom said something in whatever language it was. And then as soon as she said that, a bird passed through on her arm. And she looked at her like...
Wow.
Bird passed on her?
Yeah. And
that's awesome.
And then so they left, and she was wiping her arm.
Wow,
and,
that's amazing.
Another thing a bird passed through on.
So did they get the book?
No. And then yeah. And then you mentioned about making the unfortunate fortunate. The book that we got from Balaram Prabhu. I used this line yesterday. I said, do you know what the word unfortunate means? And then they said, yeah. And I told them, if someone offers you $1 million and you don't take it, that makes you unfortunate. And so this man said, oh, this is $1 million? I gave him a stack of books, and I said, exactly. He said, okay, I'll take it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's good. That's a good line. Because it was from the book that you gave us. Preaching verses from Prabhupada.
So you're mentioning how the most of the Christians like preaching fire and brimstone, and they've done a disservice for they've done a big disservice, and you could say making people anti-religion. They don't want anything to do with religion. Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, we could look at it as that they actually did a great service. You know what that is? That is that because people are so anti-religion, and specifically these different Christian ideas of God sending people to hell and this and that, right?
Yeah. Makes us sound better.
When they hear about Krishna, they go, "Oh, wow, okay, sounds pretty good."
Yeah.
You know? Or when they hear the devotees and what they have to say, the philosophy, it sounds really good. Yeah. It's like if someone was to give you a very terrible, they sent you to a very terrible restaurant, right? and then you went there and they send you to Crazy Burger, right? We won't get into that, but it's insane actually. They have
Ostrich and snake and alligator burgers.
It's crazy.
Apparently, allegedly.
Here in San Diego. But anyways, whatever. They don't send you there. They send you somewhere else to some terrible restaurant, right? And then you go to a restaurant devotee, prasadam, right? It's that much better.
Yeah.
Right? So, anyways, in that way they did a good service.
That's true.
But
that's a positive way of looking at it.
But that means devotees have to share it in order for people, or else people are just going to be, oh yeah, I don't want anything to do with religion, anti, this is just terrible. But if you say, hey, but if they know, hey, what about this? This is a different idea, then people will benefit.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's
good point.
But what you said is true.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
what I'm saying is also true.
Yeah, that's the bright side.
I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I just got a few comments on programming and brainwashing that you mentioned. There's a quote I once read that it's not a sign of health to be so well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So whatever you get adjusted to, if it is sick and twisted, they'll say that you're normal, but it won't actually be a good thing based on that programming.
Yeah.
And regarding the religion and spirituality, I believe the Gita, it says, discard all religion and follow me or serve me.
Yeah.
So religion has become a programming and a form of repetitive action in order to think that you're going on the right path, which most religions purposely corrupt for that sake. So a mind that's always repetitive, religious, and put in a programming. Right now there's COVID programmings, mass programmings, different kind of science programmings, but they say it's positive, so they don't see it as a negative aspect.
Yeah.
Culture, which is in nations, has the word cult in it. So everything is always programming. So some choose to be positive, some choose to be negative. So as long as we see that our brains are freshened, alive, that's the only way we see the Krishna conscious concept. Because a live mind will see a God which is alive, rather than a repetitive mind, one that's dulled down by the world or other religions.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anybody else?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, you're on.
Yes, Amogha Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat
Prabhu,
Pranam.
Thank you very much. Did you spoke today on 5:13:5 now?
Yes, Prabhu.
So from the purport, I get the expression made by Srila Prabhupada, which is, quote, tangible results at the very end of the purport, unquote. So based on this, my question is, and because of this, I went to the online dictionary to see the synonym for the word tangible. And I got two synonyms, touchable and palpable. And related to this, my question is, why is it that Srila Prabhupada is establishing the spiritual results as tangible when I cannot touch them or see them or smell them? They're not palpable.
Well, they are, actually. You can actually perceive them because the results that Prabhupada is talking about is spiritual advancement. You can taste the prasadam, you can hear the kirtan. No, I'm just joking. But when somebody is making spiritual advancement, their qualities change. Factually, you can see that like some of Prabhupada's disciples, before they took to Krishna consciousness, like there's a story about Crazy Peter. Crazy Peter, he was a bhakta in the temple, and he would live, he slept in the lobby. He was sleeping in the lobby, and he was taking prasadam in the lobby, and people would come in, and he was kind of like a weird guy, in general. And devotees complained about him. 8 hours to chant 16 rounds. Yeah, he would take 8 hours to chant his 16 rounds. But then eventually that Crazy Peter became Kushakrata Prabhu, who translated, is amazing Sanskrit scholar, translated so many of the Acharyas' books into English, which are now integral in Western Vaishnava society. So it's actually, the results of spiritual advancement are actually extremely tangible. So they're subtle, but they are tangible. That's my answer.
That is your answer. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Oh, Hare Krishna.
I have a nice, very nice class, Prabhu, practical class. Thank you so much. My question is, when we give books to someone and they said, oh no, I'm practicing my Jesus or whatever religion they may be practicing, and then is it okay to say that you can practice, your faith will increase, but you follow rules, and that way we can give the books because
say this will give you more faith in God.
More faith in God, and whatever you believe, you keep on believing, but read this and you'll strengthen your faith, and if you are following the rules, then it will strengthen your faith.
Yeah, that's
so that's the right approach. Okay.
Yeah.
And other question is, thank you. When you said when people oppose, that's good for us. What is would you a little bit?
Yeah. Well, basically, it means that if people are opposing us, it means that we're actually making some kind of impact. It means that people are acknowledging us as a serious thing. If we weren't, if people were not acknowledging us as a serious movement, then they would just say, okay, whatever. But the fact that people are opposing us, it means that we're actually having an impact, that we're actually making some kind of impression. And then naturally, people will oppose. When anything is successful, people will oppose it. Because, this Krishna consciousness movement is completely opposed to how people in this society, how people in this world are living. And so if people acknowledge us as serious, then they will try to oppose us because they see us as a threat to their material enjoyment, to their material life. And this is what we want. We want to be a threat to people's material life. We want to completely destroy their material life and give them spiritual life. So.
Thank you so much. Very nice answer. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you for such a nice class. And I was just thinking, I come from India, and I see people there is another class within the people who are atheist, but there are people who are theist. They show that they are theist. They believe in, they know Krishna, they, aware of it by birth and whatever. But moment it comes to committing for anything, even a small book or committing for these rules, they are not in. They're just, okay, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to deal with these people than people who say, okay, I don't know. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it came up in class the other day when Mahotsa Prabhu was giving class, and he was saying, he was mentioning a quote from my spiritual master in a lecture. He said, Hinduism is an elaborate Vedic excuse to not surrender to Krishna. So it's Hinduism nowadays, so-called. It's very sentimental, very, very focused on karma, and so it's very difficult. But best thing is to get Prabhupada's book in their hands and let Prabhupada preach to them and destroy all their dumb ideas. Yeah. Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.